I'm Tim Hickey. I'm 41 years old. I was born here in Richmond and grew up here and went to school here. I moved to St. Louis and Chicago and then moved to Washington, D.C. 11 years ago. And I think I've found a place that feels like home. It's not Washington, D.C. It's a spit of land in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay called Tangier Island, which is near nothing. You get there by boat or airplane. Next to the airstrip is a yellow painted plywood box that asks, on the honor system, for a $10 fee to park your plane. There are not many visitors. And since the moment I set foot on the place 3 years back, I've been thinking about why Tangier brings me to life. The first thing I'm usually asked by people who learn I'm working on Tangier Island is how about the accent? It's said that the dialect is closest to that found in Cornwall, England. I'm still not good at it, but I've taken to answering the question in a phrase a Tangierman used when I asked about crab populations and the probabilities for his future on the island. I may not get the accent right, but the phrase captures the philosophy of the people of Tangier. He said, "All's I know about a crab is he comes and he goes and he bites." Here are some things you won't find on Tangier: a pedicure, cell phone service, a lawyer, a McNugget, a stoplight, a new car, a mall, a martini, a beer. Well, in fact, it's a dry island, a Walmart, a dry cleaner, a doctor, a Nielsen's ratings box. Here are some things you can find on Tangier: waterfront, a payphone, a crab, a soft-shell crab, a crab pot, a pier, a boat at the end of that pier, and you'll find people who, within reason, are satisfied with human existence. I live in D.C., as I said, and I've found it to be increasingly the case that people have a hard time explaining exactly what it is they do for a living, me included. We and our neighbors are into messaging and strategy, third-party validation, psychodemographics, digital curation, lobbying, this sort of thing. It seems we're all in advertising in one form or another. The first time I went to Tangier, I asked a guy what he did, and he said, "I drag pieces of iron on the bottom of the bay to scrape for crabs." I asked the head of the Watermen's Association if he planned to take off the Labor Day holiday. He looked at me mostly bewildered, looked off, and finally said, "No, we take Christmas Day off." Here's some things Tangiermen are fearful of: bull sharks. I think that's got it. That's a complete list. Here are some things the people of Tangier are not scared of: malware, hurricanes, isolation, the mediascape, fitting in, the American monoculture, not getting enough likes on their Facebook pages, not having an acceptable number of Twitter followers. Here's what their kids have: their own boats, a K-12 schoolhouse, motorbikes, no curfew, free reign, and they have the chance to make their own memories, their own associations, without being told what those should be by relentless media assault. But here's what Tangier is losing: their population, their landmass, their livelihood, their way of life, their relevance. When I went out to see Tangier that first time, I wanted to know why choose this place when look at all we've got over here on the mainland. I came away asking, why don't I live on Tangier? I asked them questions, they answered, and what took me aback was the pure exchange of information and the absence of an agenda. Straight communication. How are the winds? 10 knots southwest. How are the seas? 5-foot swells. How are you doing? I ain't bragging. What's for dinner? Crab cakes. There was no performance, no hucksterism. I was reminded of the writer Fred Exley describing the sport of football. He called it an island of directness in a world of circumspection. A man was asked to do a difficult and brutal job, and he either did it or got out. There was nothing vague or rhetorical about it. Tangier is that metaphor made real. Here is an island, literally, of directness in a world of circumspection, and people here are either doing a job or they're getting out. They are losing their jobs and they're getting out. Licenses to work on the water cannot be gotten. Catch caps and restrictions have limited the only way they have to make a living, crabbing. But to the world of commercial technology, Tangier is a population without value. It is irrational and irrelevant and marginalized. They don't buy enough stuff. There's no room for market expansion. There's no demographic block that will affect cable ratings or polling results. There isn't a line out the door for the next iPhone. Tangier is a challenge to contemporary ideas of success and progress and celebrity and conservation as those notions are sold to us. And yet they've survived, and that's the mystery. That's what interests me, their certainty that they will endure. I believe Tangier has a beneficial place in our environment. I am disinclined to see it disappear. I talked with my friend Craig Surrow from here in Richmond about this, and he understood this place immediately. Craig and I figured that if we lost Tangier, we'd lose something vital and pertinent, a worthwhile counterpoint to contemporary American life. So we set about establishing Tangier Island Oyster Company with the watermen, the only goal being to help preserve a way of life and a culture that we'd come to respect and admire. It took a long time to convince the watermen that first, our intentions were good, and second, that oyster farming might be part of the way forward. They were hunter-gatherers, and we were suggesting that they go into farming. We were asking that they consider an alternative to what they've been doing for nearly 400 years. In the end, we won them over by skin diving to plant the anchors in the bay bottom that would hold the oyster lines. They asked, "Weren't we afraid of the bull sharks?" I said, "I live in Washington, D.C." They said they understood. The head of the Watermen's Association later threw his hat on the table at the fellowship hall in front of all the other watermen and said, "I'm in." Then so were the others. This is the first year. The oysters are beautiful. The Tangiermen take pride in their cultivation. I've eaten the oysters. They're the most delicious I've ever tasted. Now I'll quote another author. I don't know if it's uncool or is it gauche to quote another speech within one's own speech. But this is TED, and the concept of meta, whatever that means, seems right. And it's Faulkner, our kinsman down here, and he despaired of a humanity 65 years ago, preoccupied of when it would be blown up. I live 6 blocks from the Capitol. The thought of being blown up has crossed my mind. But he figured we ought to be thinking about what he called the verities or the truths of the heart. Love and honor and pity and pride and compassion and sacrifice. He said we had to make space for these considerations in order to address the problems of the human spirit. It's hard to find space, but I believe I've found one. It's Tangier Island. Money and commerce are important there as everywhere, of course. That's life. But Craig and I have talked about this. If you had all the money in the world and lived on Tangier, how would you spend your money? There's not enough to buy. There are not enough distractions or entertainments for sale. So then what? What else might you begin thinking about? Where else might you focus your attention? Maybe on Faulkner's Truths of the Human Heart. I'm not a Luddite or a technophobe, but I know there must be more to life than binge-watching House of Cards, or checking my phone every 5 minutes, or walking to a convenience store for a vitamin water I don't really want. And when I'm on Tangier, I'm not troubled by these concerns. They're just not available. Much as I like good hard labor at sea, I'm not suggesting we all become watermen. I'm suggesting that a trip to Tangier, at least a consideration of the place, will force us to think about every move we make, every trip to the store, every swipe of the debit card, about what we own, what we need, and what we do to each other, the way we spend our time, and the things we value. We might come away thinking, yes, the monoculture is out there for the consuming, and it's closing in, but this place is also our country. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to Tangier. I'm really looking forward to getting back there. Thank you.